drugs. Okay, till now we have discussed antibacterial drugs. Yesterday we discussed about antifungal drugs, and now today we will be discussing antiviral drugs. Okay, so before going into details of the antiviral drugs, we should first again just revise what viruses are. You have already had a entire paper on virology in the second year, but still just to recapitulate whatever we have studied about viruses so that we can understand when we are looking at specific drugs and where they are targeting, it will be more clear. Okay, so let us first revise what viruses are. Viruses are obligate intracellular parasites. Okay, what does it mean? It means that they are, we can say that they are live only when they are inside the host cells. Outside the host cells, they are just like inanimate particles. Okay, so they are obligate intracellular parasites. They can replicate only when they are inside the host cells. Another important aspect of viruses is that viruses have no cell wall. Okay, there is no cell wall, and they are just made up of nucleic acid, which may be either DNA or RNA, and this nucleic acid is covered by a protein capsid. Okay, so this is the basic structure of a virus. It is also known as nucleocapsid particles. Okay, nucleo means it has some nucleic acid component which may be either RNA or it may be DNA, and then this nucleic acid genome of the virus is protected by a covering of protein, and this protein is known as capsid protein. Okay, some viruses they have also an additional outer envelope. Okay, such viruses are known as enveloped viruses, and in enveloped viruses, the envelope is actually obtained from the host cell. Okay, so the envelope, whatever envelope is made up of, generally it is made up of membrane, phospholipid bilayer. Okay, and this envelope is not encoded by the viruses. They are always obtained from the host. Okay, and whenever such enveloped viruses they leave their host, they take some part of the membrane of the host, and that act as the envelope of the viruses. Okay, but all viruses will not have this envelope. Okay, so those viruses which have the envelope is known as enveloped virus, and those viruses which do not have the envelope are known as naked viruses. Okay, viruses which contain envelope, they will have certain viral proteins also incorporated into those envelope. Okay, and those viral proteins are antigenic in nature. Okay, and they can be target of the immune system of the host for controlling the growth of such viruses. Okay, another important point about viruses is that they do not have metabolic machinery of their own. Okay, they use the host enzymes to synthesize proteins and DNA and RNA. Okay, then certain viruses they multiply within the cytoplasm of the host, while others multiply in the nucleus. Okay, and during viral diseases, when we are making diagnosis, most of the multiplication of viruses have taken place. Okay, and then only we are able to detect them. Okay, so these are some important points we should keep in mind about viruses. Okay, just wait for 1 minute. Okay, now let us look at the different stages of viral replication. Okay, so what are the different stages? The first step is the attachment of virus to the host cell. Okay, so viruses they will have certain uh, antigens or proteins on their surfaces, and the host cell will have receptors for those proteins or antigens. Okay, with this the virus will attach to the host surface. Once it has attached, it will be taken inside the cell by different mechanisms. Okay, sometimes it is receptor mediated endocytosis. Sometimes there are other mechanisms by which the viruses will be taken inside the cell. Okay, once inside the cell, the virus undergo uncoating where the capsid proteins are removed and the viral nucleic acid, which is either DNA or RNA, it is exposed directly to the cytoplasm. The virus RNA or DNA, it may either undergo, uh, it may either move to the nucleus if the virus has to multiply in the nucleus, or it will remain in the cytoplasm and it will get multiplied as well as transcribed and translated to produce what is known as viral subunits. Okay, so once inside the cell, uncoating happens and the capsid proteins are getting removed, the viral nucleic acids get exposed. This viral nucleic acid, it will get replicated, it will get transcribed and translated to produce what are known as viral proteins and viral protein components that we know as viral subunits. Once these viral subunits are produced, they are assembled inside the host cell, and once assembly is complete, assembly means if the nucleic acids are getting replicated, they will get assembled, and those nucleic acid will be covered with the viral subunit, whatever capsid proteins are there, and the other components of the virus will also get attached and the complete virus will be assembled. Once the assembly of the virus protein is complete, then it will again bind to certain receptors onto the inner side of the membrane and they will be released outside. Many viruses, they lyse this cell and they are released outside. There are other viruses which come out of the host cell without lysing by mechanism known as budding. Okay, so this is in general the life cycle of a virus inside the cell, how it attaches and enters, and how it exits the cell. Okay, now uh, looking at this, we know that viruses are very difficult to kill. Okay, why they are very difficult to kill? Because if you want to kill, because these viruses are residing inside the cells, host cells, we may also kill the cells. Okay, because viruses resides in the cells, if you try to kill the viruses, the host cells may also get killed. Okay, therefore it becomes very difficult to control virus, and the best thing to overcome viral infection is to have a very competent immune system. Okay, so we will be discussing about viral drugs, but the best thing to control viral infections is to have a very competent immune system. Okay, because all the viral drugs that we will be discussing will be having their own side effects and they will be damaging our own cells also. Okay, so it is always better to have a very competent immune system wherein our immune system will itself fight off those viruses particles and cells which have got infected by the natural mechanisms. Okay, but there are conditions in which people are immunocompromised, where their immune system has been compromised. For example, we have cancer patients, which are especially those who are suffering from leukemia and lymphoma. Their immune system has been compromised. Then we have transplant patients, which are given pharmacological therapy. They are given drugs to suppress the immune system so that they can accept the transplanted organs. Okay, so in those patients also the viral infections can be very frequent. Then we have AIDS patients. Okay, in AIDS patients, the AIDS virus actually interferes with the immune system cells. Okay, and it attacks the T helper cells, and that is why the immune system of those patients who are suffering from AIDS, they are also compromised. Okay, so so it is always best to have a very competent immune system. Okay, now let us look at the various methods that the that are used for controlling, for designing, we can say, antiviral drugs. Okay, when you want to design an antiviral drug, the antiviral drug may target the viral entry. Okay, we had seen what are the steps in viral replication, okay, or viral life cycle. Okay, so whenever we are designing an antiviral drug, these antiviral drugs will target any of these steps which are involved in viral replications. Okay, so the antiviral drug may target viral entry. They may target the DNA or RNA replication in the cell. They may target transcription factors so that the transcription of viral DNA does not occur. They may target the translation machinery of the of the host so that the viral DNA does not get viral RNA does not get translated. Okay, antiviral drugs may also target viral proteases. Okay, generally in viruses, the proteins are synthesized continuously, okay, as a single polypeptide, and later on these polypeptides are cleaved by proteases to form individual proteins. Okay, so many antiviral drugs may target viral proteases so that the viral proteins are not cut and they are not arranged or arranged to form the functional proteins. Okay, finally, there may be antiviral drugs which may stop the release of the mature virus from the host cells. Okay, so these are the various steps which may be targeted by antiviral drugs, and definitely we have various examples of drug which are used for targeting different group of viruses. Okay, and these different drugs, they target the different steps. For example, we have enfuvirtide, which is used in treatment of HIV. We have gamma globulins, which target the adsorption or entry of the viral particles into the host cell. Okay, then we have antiviral drugs like amantadine. This amantadine is used against the influenza virus and it prevents the uncoating of the viral capsid. We have drug which is formivirsin. This formivirsin is active against cytomegalovirus and it prevents the early protein synthesis. Okay, then we have various types of purine pyrimidine analogs and reverse transcriptase inhibitors, which will target the DNA synthesis or RNA synthesis of different viruses. Okay, we have protease inhibitors, okay, which will inhibit the cutting of the multi-protein polypeptide into functional protein molecules. Okay, and finally we have antiviral drugs like neuraminidase inhibitors, which are used against influenza, which prevent the release of virus particles from the host cell. Okay, so we can see that all these targets that we had discussed, they are being used. There are drugs which act on all these targets and they are used for controlling different type of viral pathogens. Okay, so now let us look at some key characteristic of antiviral drugs. Okay, whenever we develop an antiviral drug, they must be very specific. Okay, they must specifically enter only the infected cells. Okay, and they must not affect the normal cells. Okay, so many antiviral drugs are prodrugs. Okay, they are not active drugs. They are prodrugs and they must be phosphorylated by viral or cellular enzymes in order to become active. Okay, so how this specificity can be achieved? Okay, specificity of drugs so that they enter only those cells or they become active on only those cells which are infected with viruses. We prepare them as prodrugs, and these prodrugs, they will enter the cell, but they will become active only in those cells which are infected with viruses, and they have certain enzymes which are produced by the viral coded DNA. Okay, so most of the antiviral drugs, they are pro-drugs, and they must be phosphorylated or activated inside the cells which are infected with the virus. Okay, and those cells which are not infected, the drug will enter, but it will not get activated. Okay, so this is how the specificity of drugs are achieved. Okay, then antiviral drugs should interfere with viral nucleic acid synthesis and or its regulation. Antiviral agents inhibit active replication. So viral growth resumes after the drug has been removed. Okay, and this is required also. Okay, so these drugs, whenever they are used, they will inhibit only active replication, and once the viral drugs have been removed, these normal replication of these cells can resume. Okay, so this is the important characteristic of antiviral drugs. Rest of the points, whatever is written, we have already discussed. Okay, now let us look at various antiviral therapies which are presently available for controlling different group of viruses. Okay, we have antiviral drugs against cytomegalovirus. We have antiviral drugs against hepatitis viruses. We have antiviral drug against human immunodeficiency virus. Okay, we have antiviral therapy against influenza virus. Okay, we have antiviral therapy against respiratory syncytial virus. Okay, these are not single viruses, but these are group of viruses. Okay, influenza virus, if we talk about, then even the coronavirus that we are having, they also come under the flu viruses. Okay, so these are different group of viruses against which antiviral therapies are available. Okay, and most of the antiviral therapy we divide into or classify them into anti group of virus against which they are effective. For example, we have anti-herpes virus. Okay, so this will include many drugs which are all very effective against herpes viruses. We have anti-influenza virus. Okay, this will include number of drugs which are effective against the different influenza viruses. We have antiretrovirals. In antiretrovirals, there are different types. Okay, and then we have other antiviral agents. Okay, so this is how the antiviral drugs are classified. Okay, we have anti-herpes virus, we have anti-influenza virus, we have antiretrovirals. In antiretrovirals, we have nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors, we have nucleotide reverse transcriptase inhibitors, we have non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors, we have protease inhibitors, and then finally we have fusion inhibitors. Okay, so like that, we divide the antiviral drugs into different groups. Now let us start with some important antiviral drugs. Okay, so we will start with anti-herpes and anti-cytomegalovirus drugs. Okay, so we will start with anti-herpes and anti-cytomegalovirus drugs. Okay, so these drugs are used against herpes viruses or cytomegaloviruses. Okay, so the first group is nucleoside analogs. Okay, most of the drugs which are used against anti-herpes and anti-cytomegaloviruses, they are nucleoside analogs. Okay, analogs means what? They will have structures which are similar to nucleosides, but they will not be nucleosides. And these nucleosides analog, when they get incorporated into the DNA or RNA of the viruses, the further polymerization of the nucleic acid of virus will not occur. Okay, and the virus replication will get inhibited, or say virus transcription, it will get inhibited. Okay, so uh, analogs of analogs are naturally occurring nucleosides. Okay, they must be converted to triphosphate analog in order to be active. Okay, as I told you that most of the antiviral drugs are pro-drugs, and once inside the cell, they are phosphorylated by viral enzymes or the cellular enzyme only in those cells which are infected with viruses. Okay, so similarly here also the analogs which are used, they have to be converted into triphosphate analog. Okay, and this triphosphate analog only gets incorporated into the viral nucleic acid. Okay, so they have to be converted into triphosphate analog in order to become active, and this triphosphate competes with the native nucleoside for incorporation into the viral DNA. Okay, and once they are incorporated, they will prevent the replication as well as transcription of the viral DNA or RNA. Okay, examples are acyclovir, ganciclovir, you have panciclovir, okay, we have cidofovir, we have vidarabine, we have foscarnet, we have trifluridine. Okay, these are examples of anti-herpes and anti-cytomegalovirus. Okay, you can see here whatever name is written in bracket is actually the prodrug, and for example we have here valacyclovir. Okay, so valacyclovir is the prodrug and the active agent is acyclovir. Okay, valacyclovir, when it is taken inside the cell, it will be phosphorylated in the viral infected cells and it will be converted into active form, and that active form will be acyclovir. Okay, so all these compounds acyclovir, valacyclovir, ganciclovir, famiciclovir, all are guanine nucleoside analogs. Okay, so when they are converted into their triphosphate form, they will resemble guanine. Okay, and they will get incorporated into the nucleic acid in place of guanine, and once they are incorporated they will not allow further polymerization of DNA or RNA and will prevent the replication as well as transcription of the viral DNA and RNA respectively. Okay, uh, so these are other details, you can just have a read on that. Okay, now we will move to other nucleoside analog. We have cidofovir. Okay, cidofovir is a analog of cytosine. Okay, and it does not require phosphorylation. It can directly get incorporated in place of cytosine inside the DNA and RNA of the viruses. Okay, we have vidarabine. Vidarabine is a nucleoside analog of adenosine. Okay, so instead of adenosine, vidarabine will get incorporated into the viral DNA and RNA. Okay, so this is how these type of nucleoside analogs they get incorporated. We have trifluridine. This trifluridine is a pyrimidine nucleoside analog and it inhibits viral DNA synthesis. Finally, we have foscarnet. Okay, foscarnet is a inorganic pyrophosphate analog. Okay, pyrophosphate, you know, two phosphates which are attached by bond. Okay, so this foscarnet is a inorganic pyrophosphate analog. It's not a nucleoside analog. Okay, it's a pyrophosphate analog. It directly inhibits the viral DNA and RNA polymerase and viral inverse transcriptase as well. Okay, so this is how different nucleoside analogs and pyrophosphate analogs can be used as drugs for anti-herpes and anti-cytomegalo drugs. Okay, so they can be used as anti-herpes or anti-cytomegalo viruses. Okay, now we have anti-influenza drugs. In anti-influenza drugs, the examples are amantadine and rimentadine. Okay, one is amantadine, rimentadine. The other is oseltamivir and zanamivir. Okay, so let us look at what is the mode of action, where these amantadine and rimentadine work and where these oseltamivir and zanamivir work. Okay, as the name here, it's already written that os oseltamivir and zanatamivir are neuraminidase inhibitor. Okay, we will start with amantadine and rimentadine. Amantadine and rimentadine, they prevent the uncoating of the influenza virus inside the host cell. Okay, so we had already discussed that once the viruses, they attach to the surface of the host cells. They are internalized by different mechanisms. And once inside the host cell, they have the first step is uncoating of the viral capsid. Okay, so the uncoating of the virus capsid in case of influenza virus occurs through intake of protons. Okay, intake of protons inside the capsid. Okay, so in influenza virus, the uncoating of the capsid proteins, it occurs by uptake of protons from cytoplasm inside the capsid. Okay, and for this, there are specific proton channels which are present in the matrix protein of the influenza virus. Okay, so in the matrix protein of the influenza virus, matrix proteins matlab these are proteins present in the capsid. Okay, there are certain proteins which are known as the M2 proteins. Okay, M2 proteins which are present in the capsid, and they are proton channels. They will take up protons from the cytoplasm and it will pump it inside the capsid so that the proton concentration inside the capsid increases. Okay, when the proton concentration inside the capsid will increase, it means the pH will decrease. The capsid proteins, they get unarranged, disintegrated, and the viral RNA, it will get exposed into the cytoplasm. Okay, so this is how uh, the viral uncoating in case of influenza viruses occur. Okay, this amantadine and rimantadine, it actually inhibits this viral uncoating by inhibiting the function of M2 protein. Okay, so amantadine and rimantadine, it will inhibit the function of the M2 protein so that the M2 protein, which is a proton pump, it will not be able to take up protons from outside of the cell to the inside, and therefore the pH inside the capsule will not decrease, and when the pH will not decrease, the disintegration of the capsid proteins will not occur. Okay, so the viral uncoating will be prevented. Okay, so this is how amantadine and rimantadine works. Okay, now let us look at how oseltamivir and zanamivir works. Okay, oseltamivir and zanamivir, it prevents the release of the virus from the host cell. Okay, once the influenza virus has completed its assembly, okay, the entire influenza virus has been assembled. Finally, it has to leave the host cell by budding. Okay, when it is budding out, the influenza virus remains attached to the host cell with certain receptors. These receptors are neuraminidase receptor. These receptors are between the sialic acid residue and certain proteins which are present, hemagglutinin proteins which are present on the surface of the influenza virus. Okay, these attachments, they have to be removed, then only the influenza virus will be able to get released from the host cell. Okay, and this is done by neuraminidase enzyme. Okay, neuraminidase enzyme. Okay, and oseltamivir and zanamivir, they inhibit this neuraminidase enzyme. Okay, so they will inhibit this enzyme. When this neuraminidase inhibited, the viral particles, they will not be able to get released from the host cell. They will be formed entirely, but they will remain attached to the host cell. And once they are not released, they will not be able to infect any new cell. Okay, so that is how the virus infection can be limited. Okay, so this is how uh, oseltamivir and zanamivir work. Okay, so these are very important drugs which are used in treatment of influenza viruses. Okay, amantadine and rimantadine, which prevents the viral uncoating, and oseltamivir and zanamivir, which prevents the release of the fully formed viruses from the host cell. Okay, now let us look at other group of antiviral drugs which are antiretroviral drugs. Okay, so retroviruses are also an important group of human parasites, we can say. Okay, and the most important example of retroviruses are the HIV, okay, human immunodeficiency virus, which causes AIDS. Okay, so antiretroviral drugs, they are of different types. We can divide the antiretroviral drugs into different groups. We can have nucleoside or nucleotide reverse transcriptase inhibitors. We can have non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors. We can have protease inhibitors. We can have fusion inhibitors. We can have entry inhibitors, or we can have integrase inhibitors. Okay, now let us look at examples of these different groups of drugs. Okay, for example, in nucleoside or nucleotide reverse transcriptive inhibitor, the best example or the most famous example is zidovudine. Okay, zidovudine, which is also known as AZT, and it is used in treatment of AIDS patient. Okay, AZT, zidovudine. Okay, there are other examples which are given here. Okay, and there are newer drugs also. You can see that AZT, which is zidovudine, was discovered and approved in 1987. Okay, we have now newer classes of nucleoside nucleotide reverse transcriptase inhibitors, which includes Apzicom, we have Truvada, okay, which are all trade names. Okay, in non-nucleotide reverse transcriptase inhibitors, there are a number of examples. We have the first, you can see, very old non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitor, which was approved in 1969, which is nevirapine. Okay, and if we look at newer drugs, we have itravirine, okay, which was approved in 2008. Okay, so you have to remember a few examples of drugs which are belonging to these different classes. Okay, these nucleoside or non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors, they will inhibit the activity of reverse transcriptase enzyme. Okay, and these reverse transcriptase enzyme is playing a very important role in the infection of retroviruses. Retroviruses, they have RNA genome. Okay, and these RNA genome, once inside the host cell, they first get converted into DNA copy, and this DNA copy gets incorporated into the host genome by an enzyme which is known as integrase. Okay, so these steps are very important in retroviral infections. Okay, so the RNA genome will first get converted into DNA copy, and this conversion of RNA to DNA is known as reverse transcription. Normally in the cell, reverse transcriptase enzymes are not present because in our body or in our cells, the central dogma is followed where DNA makes RNA and RNA makes proteins. Okay, but in reverse transcriptase enzymes, the genome is RNA, it gets converted into DNA. Okay, and this is opposite to what central dogma states. Okay, so from RNA, DNA is made. Therefore, they have specific enzyme for doing this because this type of enzyme will not be present in the host cell. Okay, so these type of viruses, they carry their own reverse transcriptase enzyme, and these reverse transcriptase enzyme, because they are specific to retroviruses, they can be targeted. Okay, because they will provide a specific target which will inhibit only the replication of the viruses. Such reverse transcriptase enzymes are not present in the host cell. So if you use a therapy that targets reverse transcriptase, it will specifically affect the replication of the viral genome. Okay, and it will not affect the replication of the host genome. That is why reverse transcriptases are the favorite targets in designing drugs against retroviral pathogens. Okay, so these type of reverse transcriptase inhibitors, nucleoside analogs or non-nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors have been used right from old times even to recent times. Okay, so you have to remember few of the examples. Then protease inhibitors can also be used, and these are examples of different protease inhibitors. If you look at the recent developments, we have darunavir, which is a protease inhibitor, which is used in treatment of retroviral infections. As I told you that in retroviruses, the proteins they are translated, different proteins, they are translated together as a single polypeptide, and later on these polypeptide will be cleaved by protease. Okay, and only then functional proteins will be generated. Okay, so these protease can also be targeted for inhibiting retroviral protein synthesis. Okay, then we have fusion inhibitors. We have infuvidite, okay, which will prevent the fusion of the retroviruses to the host cell. We have integrase inhibitors, which will inhibit the integration of the DNA copy of the viral genome into the host cell. Okay, so these integrase also provide a specific target for controlling the retroviral infections. Okay, but there are always number of problems which are associated with any antiviral therapy. Okay, because as I told you that it's very difficult to find out specific targets within the virus life cycle, and since these viruses are replicating inside the host cells, many times whenever we use these antiviral therapies, they will also affect the host cells. Okay, so there are various side effects which are associated with antiretroviral specifically drugs. They are listed here. Okay, and they have to be taken into consideration whenever any antiviral therapy is being administered. Okay, finally we have another group of antiviral drugs which are interferons. Okay, interferons are natural proteins which are produced by cells of the immune system in response to viruses, bacteria, parasite, or any other pathogen. Okay, so interferons are the natural proteins which are produced by the cells of our immune system against any foreign agent which is invading our cells. Okay, so these interferons can also be used for therapeutic purpose if we are able to isolate them and identify that which interferons can activate the natural immune system of the host cells, host body, which will specifically target the viral infected cells. Okay, so interferons, there are three types of interferons: alpha interferon, beta interferon, and gamma interferon. Alpha and beta interferons are produced by all the cells in response to viral infections. Okay, while gamma interferons, they are produced only by T lymphocyte and natural killer cells in response to cytokines or the immune regulating, and they have the immune regulating effect. Okay, so alpha and beta interferons, they can be used for treatment of viral infections. Okay, and how these interferons act? They act by inducing following enzymes. Okay, they can induce protein kinase R, which inhibits the viral protein synthesis. Okay, they can induce enzymes oligoadenylate synthase, which leads to degradation of viral mRNA. Okay, they can activate a phosphodiesterase, which inhibits the viral tRNA. Okay, the action of these enzymes finally leads to inhibition of protein synthesis inhibition, and in a viral infected cell, most of the protein synthesis is taking place to synthesize the viral proteins. Okay, therefore, the inhibition of protein synthesis will inhibit the growth of the viruses. Okay, here antiviral activity of interferon alpha has been given. Okay, interferon alpha has been used against HBV, that is hepatitis B virus, hepatitis C virus, and human papilloma virus. Okay, they have also been used to control certain cancers, for example, Kaposi sarcoma and hairy cell leukemia. Okay, so you can see that interferons, they actually activate the TC cells which are involved in killing the virus infected cells and also the cancer cells. Okay, so if these interferons can be appropriately managed so that they can activate T cells and which can later target virus infected cells or our own cells which have got cancerous, then they can be used in treatment of viral diseases and also in cancers. Okay, but there are a lot of side effects of using these interferons. So therefore, one has to always weigh the profits and the side effects which are associated with interferon treatment. Okay, so uh, another important point is that the bioavailability of these interferons is very low, less than 1%. Okay, therefore, whenever these type of treatments are being used, it has to be done under strict monitoring. Okay, now the encouraging fact is that interferons have been used for treatment of chronic hepatitis B and hepatitis C, and it has been seen that in 30% of the cases, complete eradication of hepatitis B and C have been achieved using interferons. Okay, so this is all about antiviral drugs. Okay, you can. I have already posted this PPT into the channel. Okay, so you can have a look at these PPT and you can prepare this particular portion of your syllabus from there.